NASCAR? Do you like a Tribe Called Quest? Well, you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like manwich and nachos? Well, then you love the Urban Conservative.
Do you like guns? Do you like butter? Well, you're gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Yo, what's good, son? You like pit bulls, say? You like solving Sudoku puzzles? Then you gonna love the Urban Conservative.
Hey, buddy, if your car making a sound like this, you might want to get you some power steering fluid and check out the Urban Conservative podcast.
Are you repulsed by the idea of drag queen story time at your local library, but enjoy Carol Baskin TikTok memes? Then you would enjoy the Urban Conservative. Do you want to slap your boss and then go home and make yourself some golden brown pancakes covered in butter and freshly made warm boysenberry syrup? Then you'll love the Urban Conservative. If you're a little over Cardi B and you're repulsed by the thought of Hogmaw, check out the Urban Conservative. You ready? If you think the earth is flat and always on that weird side of YouTube, check out the Urban Conservative. They'll set you straight.
If you're in a chasing dopey and you love solid fish and festival, check out the Urban Conservative.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. You're rocking out on the Urban Conservative podcast. Hope all is going well on a positive and productive Thursday for each and every one of y'all. You know what we do here at the Urban Conservative. Our mission is to share conservative values and principles and the benefits of conservative policies to urban communities across this great nation of ours. We do that online. We do that in the streets. We also do that by running for office, participating in the political process. You can support what we do by visiting TUCONSERVATIVE.com is the website for you to get connected. We appreciate all the love and support. Give this video a like, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Unless you've been living under a rock, you haven't heard about this. What you've actually got going on is we know the dates. We know the times. It is going down. But by far, what is probably one of the cringiest videos I've ever seen, and probably one of the most difficult for the Democrats to have had put together. It looks as if this video was probably the toughest thing they ever made. It just doesn't look like old Joe was able to do this comfortably. Y'all take a listen to this.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
I don't know.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020.
Did he really, though? Like, if we really go back and look at those debates, are we going to really call those debate wins for you, Joe Biden? I don't know that we could call those debate wins for you. They were the only things you actually did, because I remember you were Basement Joe hiding out.
Since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my...
No, he's not acting like. He definitely wants to debate you again.
My day, pal.
You're Clint Eastwood now. You went with the Clint Eastwood line.
I'll even do it.
You went with a Dirty Harry line, bro.
Twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
I don't get the free on Wednesday. I just don't really. The free on Wednesday, it kind of alludes in a great way to what we all know, which is these trials that Donald Trump are happening to be saddled with, dealing with, are just the Democrats really trying to keep him from the ability to campaign. We all know that it's obviously political. The attacks on Trump are political. There's been no crime really designated. You saw Speaker Johnson come out at the Trump trial the other day and say this.
President Trump is a friend, and I wanted to be here to support him. I'm here speaking with you outside because the court won't allow us to speak inside the building. That's just one of the many things that are wrong here. This is the fifth week that President Trump has been in court for this sham of a trial. They are doing this intentionally to keep him here and keep him off of the campaign trail. And I think everybody in the country can see that for what it is. I'm an attorney. I'm a former litigator myself. I am disgusted by what is happening here, what is being done here to our entire system of justice overall. The people are losing faith right now in this country, in our institutions. They're losing faith in our system of justice. And the reason for that is because they see it being abused as it is being done here in New York. The facts here are very important. Facts are always important in a trial, or at least they're supposed to be. The president's actions in this matter were previously reviewed and no charges were filed. Why is that? Because there's no crime here. Now, 8 years later, suddenly they've resurrected this thing. They brought it back. And why is that? Well, just apply common sense. Everyone can see. It's painfully obvious that we're now 6 months out from an election day.
Bottom line. That is just the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. 6 months out from an election day, and you've got Donald Trump versus Joe Biden. You've got the Democrats doing everything they can to keep Donald Trump in court, basically, and unable to get out there on the road and campaign the way he's supposed to. Now, the campaign, Biden's campaign has to be desperate, in my opinion, if they're willing to get these debates, if they're willing to push Joe Biden out there, if they're willing to do that. Now, a couple of the interesting things about the debate. One is going to be on June 27th. The second will be on September 10th. First one hosted by CNN. The second one hosted by ABC. The fact that they're doing it on CNN tells me a whole lot, but the rules are the interesting thing. Biden's administration does not want a live studio audience. Their explanation was that leads to a ruckus thing. They want to go back to where it was just the air finger quote exchange of ideas. The other thing is they want mics definitely killed while the one person is talking and the other person mic, they want it off. I personally, this is my thought, they don't want to have a live studio audience there because they don't want to show them shoveling him off stage every few minutes to get shot up with something. I think you look at what you're looking at with this Trump phenomenon here, and this is, as you can see it, this is actual footage of Trump's crowd at the rally out there in New Jersey. You actually have the reality of it is Trump is pulling crowds the size that Biden cannot pull these crowds. This this level of enthusiasm is not there for Joe Biden and the Democrats. It's not there. Another interesting thing that comes out of that particular rally is you have this happening.
Tonight and today by two incredible football legends, New York Giants, Super Bowl heroes. I guess I would have to say Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player ever. I'm a little prejudiced, but I would say that. And a man who was possessed during Super Bowl, he was a Super Bowl MVP, Otis O.J. Anderson in the here. Come on up, fellas, for a second. Come on up. Come on up. These guys, look at him. Lawrence, you look like you could play immediately. They could use you. Come on up. These guys are serious players. They're my golfing partners, too. Tell them, can Trump play golf? You have to tell them.
I just want to say, I grew up a Democrat. and I've always been a Democrat until I met this man right here. I'll tell you what. He will not have to worry about nobody in my family ever vote for a Democrat again. Okay.
Now that, ladies and gentlemen, is what is terrifying the left in this country. When you see people like Lawrence Taylor, and we said this the other day when this first happened, is that you have to now challenge the idea that Lawrence Taylor's not really black. He's you have a long stretch of the imagination. You have two ways that you can deal with this if you're the Democrats. The first way is that you completely ignore it, which is what they're trying to do. And the second way is to try to attack Lawrence Taylor. But I don't think that works out well for the left because, as he said, he was a lifelong Democrat until he actually met Trump. So now we've got, like I said, two debates set up. The interesting thing about these debates is, in my opinion, this is a win-win for Trump, no matter which way it goes. But then you also have to factor in, like I said, Trump is actually still pulling in massive crowds across the country. This is the crowd size out there in New Jersey. This was about an hour before Trump was set to speak. There's some to do. They said, oh, people were leaving before the speeches. Well, I'll just tell you, I've been to a Trump rally before, and there are multiple people who have been to Trump rallies before. And once he gets through a certain point in the speech, let's be real, it's for television. It's not just for the people that are there. And if you've ever been to a Trump rally and you've had to deal with the traffic, if you're smart, you'll start leaving when he's about 60% done with that speech. You'll know when that is. It's time to cut on out of there. But the fact of the matter is, where's Joe Biden's crowd? And this is part of the reason why I think they don't want to have an indoor crowd at the presidential debate. I think that only benefits Donald Trump to have an in-person crowd, and that is an advantage. But I also think you have to factor in that Joe Biden is probably, more than likely, really cognitively impaired. And the idea of having a crowd in there would probably disturb him more than they want to admit. That the fact of the matter is that Joe Biden is cognitively declined to the point where they want to minimize the outside shock. They want this as scripted as possible so that they can drill into him exactly what's going to happen. I think that they do not want you and I to see them shoveling him behind stage and coming back up, re-energized and rejuiced up, or discovering that he's getting the answers fed to him by an earpiece or something along those lines. But that's basically what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. Two dates laid out for President Trump and President Biden to go head to head. Again, one is going to be on CNN. The second is going to be on ABC. June 27th is the date for the CNN. September 10th is the date hosted by ABC. I don't think Robert Kennedy is going to be involved in either of these debates as it stands right now. The same rules still apply. You have to have a certain percentage of the national vote to be able, polling at 15% nationally on 4 different national polls to get on stage. Kennedy is blaming this as Biden and Biden's campaign has proposed excluding third-party candidates such as RFK from the debate outright. Under the commission rules, Kennedy or other third-party candidates would qualify if they secured ballot access sufficient to claim 270 electoral votes and polled at 15% or higher. So that kind of, it's a safe, I think a fail-safe for a serious third-party candidate is to have ballot access in enough states to even get 270 electoral votes and then be polling at 15% or higher in a selection of national surveys. Now, CNN and ABC announced the same qualification threshold. Candidates will need to, again, reach 15% in 4 separate national polls of registered or likely voters that meet their prospective network standards. So Kennedy is accusing Biden and Trump of trying to, quote, exclude him from the debate because they are afraid he would win, saying keep viable candidates off the debate stage undermines democracy. Now, I don't know that that is a serious thing because I don't know that there's enough votes out there for Kennedy. I just don't. As I'm out and about in my travels with my own campaign, as we're out looking at, different states that we operate in and different communities, we're not seeing a lot of push for Kennedy. So I don't know that he may be inflating the value of himself in that regard. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, lined up for you. Two debates upcoming for between President Trump and President Biden. I think what you're going to see is that President Biden makes it through it. If he stays alive, if he manages to get through a debate, they're going to call it a win either way for him. I think what Trump is going to have to do is almost pull back just a little bit. I think this will be an opportunity for Trump to come across as highly presidential. I think it'll be a great opportunity to look at the cognitive decline between the two of them in a comparative way, outside of separate videos. Seeing them face to face and head to head, if you will be a great way for folks to actually make that cognitive decline apparent. I think it rings of desperation on behalf of the Biden administration, because if the economy was that good, if America was doing as well on an international front as the Biden administration is going to attempt to say that it is, if the cost of goods and services and food and housing, et cetera, wasn't doing what it was, if the crime wasn't the way that it was in major cities across America, if we did not have the southern border crisis, I dare say that Biden wouldn't even bother to debate Trump. If he was ahead and the economy was doing great, he wouldn't need to bother to debate. But I think this rings of desperation in the fact that America is not doing great and that we were doing better under Trump. I think that the fact of the matter is that you're going to see that international policy was better under Trump. I don't know that Vladimir Putin and Russia would have invaded Ukraine. I don't think we would have saw that. I don't think we would see the level of tension between Palestine and Israel. I just don't think we would have seen the proxy wars and the proxy combat that we see on an international stage under Trump. I just don't see it. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to keep our eye on the presidential debates. Obviously, one of the highlights is going to be us carrying it right here on the Urban Conservative. So you could always watch, get our commentary. Last but not least, we're going to come right back on this other side of this commercial break and talk a little bit about what you're looking like in North Carolina now that your elections are set. That is one of the places where the primaries are done. So on the other side of this commercial break, we're going to chop it up about North Carolina real quick. Y'all don't go nowhere. We'll be right back here on the Urban Conservative.
Country illegally cast a ballot, it takes the power of your vote away. Visit onlycitizens.vote to find out how you can contact your legislature and get them to pass a citizens-only voting amendment. Again, visit onlycitizens.vote and defend your right to vote.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking here on the Urban Conservative. It is a Thursday afternoon. We're rocking with a special edition of the podcast. We're talking about the recent announcement that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are going to debate as well. We're taking a look at the North Carolina 2024 election now that the stage is set, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. There is a clear and direct Democrat versus Republican playing field that is set for 2024. We're going to take a look at that real quick, kind of chop up what we see and what we think Republicans are going to need to do to pull this out. As you can see, obviously, Donald Trump is the winner of the North Carolina Republican presidential primary, him versus Joe Biden. Now, North Carolina was able to deliver, the Republican parties were able to deliver North Carolina for Trump in 2024, and I think we can do that again. But I think it is going to boil down to, particularly this cycle, North Carolina Republicans' ability to communicate it more effectively in the urban centers of the state. I think that the economy is such that national security and immigration are such that even unaffiliated and soft Democrats, if you will, those old school yellow dog and blue dog Democrats, I think those folks are going to have a hard time voting for Joe Biden this cycle. If Republicans can deliver, and I think if North Carolina State House Republicans continue to deliver and don't rock the boat, Donald Trump will do just fine against Joe Biden here in North Carolina. Now, Josh Stein versus Mark Robinson is interesting in that the standard political pundit in North Carolina or abouts will tell you this is probably one of the most expensive governor's races. This is going to be one of the most important governor's races in the country. And on that regard, I would agree. I think Mark Robinson is going to carry it for a couple of reasons. One, I think Josh Stein is going to have to deal with the fact that he is running as a Democrat with a very unpopular president. I think that you've got a real undercurrent within the Democrat Party that are not satisfied with Joe Biden. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of Democrats stay home. You'll see, I think, a lot of the older Democrats are going to come out and vote. But I think you'll see a large contingency of younger Democrats not voting in this governor's race. They'll skip out on this governor's race only because I think that looking at where the a level of attachment for Joe Biden is going to hurt Josh Stein. So not only that, I think that when the two debate, I think what you'll find is Mark Robinson will pleasantly surprise people with his command of the policies that he's going to have. I think the other side of this is when you look at 99% of the media that Mark Robinson is getting is negative press. So that ought to tell you that there is some fear there, that the undercurrent, that there's just enough folks out there to support Mark Robinson, not just the diehard Republicans, not those, Republicans that are registered unaffiliated, but even among Democrats and some unaffiliated voters who would consider themselves a little left-leaning, what Mark talks about is appealing. So we'll have to keep our eye on the governor's race, but that is your race for governor, Josh Stein versus Mark Robinson. Down here at the lieutenant governor's race, you're going to have Rachel Hunt. Now, legacy candidate, famous last name, obviously, versus Hal Weatherman, who I think is a strong lieutenant governor's candidate. If I've ever seen one, I think he'll do a great job at taking Rachel Hunt to task for having to own particularly what has been a devastatingly negative Democrat Party when it comes to their position on defunding the police, when it comes to DEI and CRT. Obviously the lieutenant governor presiding over the Senate is one thing, but also having that seat on the State Board of Education and also being able to utilize the bully pulpit and connections that come along with being the lieutenant governor. I think Hal Weatherman obviously is better suited. And I think if he continues to make that case, you'll see a lot more folks going Hal Weatherman's way than Rachel Hunt. I think that the day of North Carolina not being afraid to vote for a more traditionalist in the sense of what classical American values are, not what far left values are, is where Hal Weatherman will take the day in that race. So I think Hal Weatherman is set up to win that race if he can convey that message. Now, obviously, Dan Bishop and Jeff Jackson for the attorney general. And the attorney general, typically you look at where Josh Stein is now as the attorney general. The joke in Raleigh is that AG stands for almost governor. But the fact of the matter is, Josh Stein has done an abysmal job as the attorney general. I think that Jeff Jackson does not understand what it takes to be an attorney general. I don't think that North Carolina is ready to have such a liberal individual who's voted so much in line with far left policy of the Democrats and the Biden administration. I don't see that someone like Jeff Jackson, who had the reputation he did in the state legislature, will make the case to be a strong, tough on crime attorney general candidate as Dan Bishop will. And as a matter of fact, shameless plug for the Mecklenburg County Republican Party's Mech Deck dinner coming up this Saturday will be with Congressman Dan Bishop, and looking forward to that this coming Saturday with the Mecklenburg Republican Party. So shouts out to them. The next race down, and look, attorney general is important. Those kind of races get looked at, but here in North Carolina, we have, I think, an opportunity to take some seats back. And number one is going to be the first congressional district. When you look at the fact that you had a long-term serving U.S. House rep there, G.K. Butterfield, now the opportunity for Lori Bookout, I think, is real to take out Don Davis. The other races, the Addison, McDowell's race is a gimme. I think Tim Moore's race is a gimme. There's some there. But depending on where you live in North Carolina, you do have a choice of some great Republicans. Hey, look at that. Ali, District 12, yours truly. But now we're going to skip these North Carolina legislature races. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to these state level races and take a look here. Steve Troxler, I think, will take the agriculture commissioner's race. Don't think he has much to worry about there. He's done pretty well in every election. The Court of Appeals, I think Tom Murray and Valerie Zachary are going to do great work there. I'm highly excited to see Tom Murray get onto the North Carolina Court of Appeals. When we talk about the state auditor's race, I think that the incumbent, unfortunately, not being elected to that position is hurtful to her and helpful to Dave Boliek. I think if he can continue to get a really good message out there, that he can actually win that race. I think that the legacy of the state auditor's office under Beth Wood was one that nonpartisanship was really high on there. Let's give Dave some love. Let's give him a little bit of love on his commercial. Here you go.
48, 49, 7, 8, 9, 55, 56.
Dave runs a tight ship.
7, 8, 9. Honey?
I made breakfast.
55, 56, $57.44.
Dad makes us keep track of every penny.
We've talked about wasteful spending.
Nothing gets by Dave. Nothing.
48, 49, 50. Honey.
You need Dave and Raleigh auditing state spending.
Boys!
But we really need Dave and Raleigh auditing state spending.
Boys!
Conservative, Republican, Dave Bolick for state auditor.
All right, shouts out to Dave Bolick. Congratulations again on your win for North Carolina state auditor, winning that Republican nomination this past Tuesday. So I think, again, if Dave can get that message out there, continue working hard, he should be able to run and take out Ms. Holmes. Now, Insurance Commissioner Mike Causey, I think, looking at the numbers last cycle, he'll continue to do strong. This is going to be a very interesting one right here. Shouts out to Luke Farley. He is up against Charlotte City Councilman Braxton Winston. I think that given the position of North Carolina's, the way North Carolina's kind of set up, I don't see a far left city councilman winning labor commissioner. I think that Luke Farley having the endorsement of Sherry Berry, there's a lot that I think factors in that pushes this race to Luke Farley. I think that Braxton, if there's ever an opportunity for them two to debate, I don't think Braxton is prepared to deal with Luke Farley in that regard. So I'm going to give that edge to Luke Farley. And I think that if he can get out there, get enough groundwork done, meet with enough of the folks out there in North Carolina, I think he can pull that win. And I think he'll also see a benefit from the Trump bump. Now, the Secretary of State's office has been for a long time controlled by Elaine Marshall. Chad Brown, chair of the Gaston County Commissioners, has been able to do some great things in Gaston County as a commissioner as it relates to attracting business, keeping the county debt-free, and some things like that. So I think if Chad can get busy enough, if he can get out there enough, I think if he can push the right message of how the necessary reforms that he wants to bring to the office can be helpful, I can see that Republicans flipping that seat along with the, kind of a wave effect of everything else. Now, this one, the superintendent of education race has already been very interesting. A lot of people calling it an upset, expecting that Catherine Truitt was just, a lot of assumption was that she was just going to get reelected. Michelle Morrow, however, with a very clear message about the role of public education and where she sees American education in North Carolina and how it's administered and the safety of the teachers and the need to understand how there is a diversity of choice in education and that the experience of education in North Carolina is not just limited to public education. I think she makes a very good case for that. I think Mo Green and his far left positions as it relates to education are not going to be helpful. And I think if she paints that picture of him, she'll do just fine. The Supreme Court race, Riggs versus Griffin. Now, Jefferson Griffin, who is currently on the State Court of Appeals, now running for Supreme Court, would do amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. North Carolina Republicans do have an advantage on the Supreme Court. We want to see that continue. I think that if what the Republican Party did for the judges last cycle, they're able to duplicate for Judge Griffin, Tom Murray, and Valerie Zachary, I think we'll see Republican wins across the board on the North Carolina State Supreme Court Court of Appeals, and a lot more in our local races. And then last but not least is the treasurer. Now, Brad Briner versus Harris. Now, the North Carolina State Treasurer Dale Folwell ran for governor and did not run for re-election. So there's no incumbent in this race. I think you have to honestly give it to Dale Folwell. Has been probably the most consistent, reliable, and I think accessible and beneficial elected official North Carolina has seen in a very long time, that politics has seen in a very long time. I think he ran the office of the state treasurer second to none. So you've got Brad Briner there. I think Briner's a serious contender. I think that if he's able to work with Dale Folwell and to get the same folks that supported Dale Folwell to support him, I think that'll be what he needs to take that race. So the stage is set in North Carolina, ladies and gentlemen. We know what it's going to be here in 2024. You've got some great congressional candidates. We look forward to having all of your North Carolina candidates, Republicans, running for office here on the Urban Conservative, so you can learn more about how to support them. Obviously, we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to support the GOP and candidates like myself that are running on a Republican ticket here in North Carolina in 2024. For my twin brother, Raheem Architect Soto, this has been a special drop of the Urban Conservative podcast. We're taking a look at the announcement of Trump versus Biden debates scheduled, and your North Carolina elections are all but locked in and ready to rock for 2024. Y'all give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, show us some love on the platform. As always, TUConservative.com. For my twin brother, Raheem Architect Soto, I'm Abdul Ali. Y'all have a positive and productive rest of the day. Peace and love, y'all.